All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to give everybody just a few minutes to get logged in here. I know it takes just a little bit of time to get logged in to Zoom. So we'll give everybody just maybe about 30, 45 more seconds to kind of trickle in here. Make sure everybody who wants to attend can attend today. And we'll get started in just a minute. All right, it looks like people have had a chance to join in here. Everybody's had a chance to get signed in. I always feel like we should have music playing or something when we are waiting for everybody to join here. We'll go ahead and kick things off. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Alan, and I am here with my colleague Generosa, and we are here to chat with y'all just a little bit today about Gatsby, the fastest front end for the headless web. Now, before we dive in, just a couple of housekeeping items. First things first, if you have questions that come up during today's session, please feel welcome to add those to our Q&A window or Q&A panel here. And we'll either address those over the mic or we will answer you via text here. We'll chat a little response back to you. Second item here is that today's webinar is being recorded. So you will receive a link to this recording probably in a couple days. Just keep an eye on your inbox. It takes a couple days to get everything, compressed, and we, add subtitles to the recording and things like that. So just be on the lookout. But this is being recorded, cool. So you'll have it to look back on. All right. So let's take a quick minute to look over what we're going to cover during today's webinar. So we're going to start with a bit of foundational info about some core Gatsby concepts and features that make Gatsby the best choice for building a performant, content-driven website for your team. And then after that, we're going to kind of switch gears. We're going to dive into Gatsby Cloud, and we're going to explore how it's the best platform for building and hosting and scaling your Gatsby site. And we're also going to be demonstrating a couple of really cool features for you along the way. So before we get started, maybe to kick us off, here's a question. Why have thousands of websites chosen Gatsby? Why do companies, right? Whether they're small or large or working across various industries and verticals, or whether they're building sites for themselves or for clients, why do these people all choose Gatsby? Well, if we had to distill it down to maybe a core principle, I'd say it's probably this. It's because Gatsby makes the hard parts of building websites just simpler. Right? There's so many things that developers and content editors have to figure out and decide on and find solutions for when they're building sites. And, Gatsby helps you focus on the work that you and your team are most excited about by taking care of all of those like hard and repetitive parts for you. So let's break that down just a little bit to talk about some of those hard and repetitive parts. Let's start with performance. Now, static sites in general are just naturally performant on their own, but Gatsby takes that a step further with things like image optimization, code splitting, lazy loading. All of these things help with your site's core web vitals, which helps increase your search traffic, all sorts of great things just by boosting that performance for you out of the box. The next thing is scalability, right? You don't have to worry as much about things like, load balancing and database replication. A lot of these things that you might be used to if you're coming from a monolithic solution like the WordPress realm, right? If you're using Gatsby Cloud, your static files get deployed globally to a CDN where folks can access your site from the edge. It keeps your site close to them so they have very fast load times. And you don't have to worry about all of that, the load balancing and database replication that you would in that monolithic world. Security, right? Static sites, a lot of people know this, static sites have a much smaller surface area for would-be attackers, right? So the parts of your site that your users interact with on the front end, those are decoupled from the administrative interfaces and the data sources. And that makes it much more difficult to breach your site. We had a really great webinar recently on Gatsby and security. It was a deep dive into security topics, and it was really fascinating. Y'all can find a link to that on our website. We talked about data sources, so let's kind of dive into that as well. Data sourcing in particular, I think, is part of what makes Gatsby just, the word I always use here is magical in a sense, right? There's a rich ecosystem of data sourcing plugins that abstract the details and nuances of working with third-party APIs, and they help you fetch data that you can use on your web pages, on your templates, those types of things. Just makes it much more simple to do these things, and you don't have to code these solutions yourself. You just have access to plugins. We'll talk about plugins in just a little bit as well. But it's not just your site that Gatsby improves. It's the process of building your site and maintaining it. Because Gatsby makes it simple for developers and marketers to build amazing websites, right? So Generosa and I kind of work on separate sides of the company here at Gatsby. I do a ton of stuff like in our marketing system. So I live in like Contentful and WordPress. And so I'm very heavily into editing content. And Generosa, you work more like on the code side, is that right?
Yeah, I do a lot of performance work. I do a lot of POCs where I build customers like sites and add like new features from Gatsby. Yeah, so I live in the code more so than the CMS. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And I think that, oh, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, and I think in the past we would have to like either one person becomes a bottleneck because I remember back in the day when someone would need a code change, you'd have to set up a ticketing system, blah, blah, blah. And that would take forever to get just some simple changes on the code. But I think with the way that Gatsby works, where you decouple the CMS and the code, we each have like our own workspace, our swim lanes to do what we do and do our job without, needing one or the other to get things done. So I like that about it.
Yeah. I like that too. It's almost like we get to kind of take advantage of each other's contributions without stepping on each other's toes. Kind of, we work together, but we stay out of each other's way, which is kind of neat.
Right.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great tool for improving your workflow. Let's switch gears just a little bit here and talk about Gatsby, maybe the way that Gatsby works. Now, I know we have talked a little bit about static site generation, right? And a lot of people know that Gatsby is a fantastic static site generation tool, but it does so much more than that, right? We also have server-side rendering, which is maybe what you might think of as that more traditional server-rendered content. So when you need to have dynamic content for every single request that comes through, Gatsby offers that. You can have server-side rendering. We mentioned static site generation, and then we have this kind of like middle ground, I would say, this hybrid rendering approach called deferred static rendering or deferred static generation. And that's where you can pre-render certain critical pages. You can generate those just like every other static page, but you can defer certain content, such as maybe like older blog posts, things that don't get a lot of traffic. You can pull those out of your build process and wait to build them until they're first requested. And so that speeds up your build time, but it also gives you the benefits of having static site generation. So that was, I know, like a kind of a wall of words here. Generosa, I know it's probably more helpful for folks to see it kind of in action.
Yeah. So let me actually show how that works. So I'm gonna get my screen, share my screen. So let me just make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Are you seeing the webpage called Simply Shapes?
Yep, that's what I see
on the screen. Okay, awesome. So yeah, Alan spoke about these two rendering modes. So I'm gonna show both, but let me start with the deferred static generation. A good use case for that is like showing content that you have to have on the website, but maybe not all of them is relevant at the moment. So a good use case would be for blogs, for news articles. So typically, like in a blog page, you have a list of blogs that could maybe be like worth a couple years, 3 to 5 years. And when you're building a Gatsby site, let's say you make a change to your configuration. Typically, if you're changing something in Gatsby config or Gatsby node, Gatsby will need to rebuild the whole site. So in that case, you could defer building of older content to actually when users access it. So in this case, the blog page has deferred content, and it defers content that is older than June 25. So anything from my 4th post and below is deferred. So if I click on this, you would see it won't, there was a slight delay. You saw it didn't like generate immediately, because basically it's deferred. But once it's clicked on once, it's already in the cache. And so as you can see, I clicked on the second time, it just appeared immediately. So that's what deferred would look like in an actual site. Now, from a code perspective, what deferred would look like is, let me just make sure I have it here. Yeah, so Alan, just making sure you see the code editor.
Yep,
Just,
that's what I see.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so the way you add deferred in your code is in this manner. So this page itself is the blog page template. And this is actually using the file system routing API syntax. You see with the 2 curly braces in there. But in the actual query, what you need to do is add this function, which is set up async, called config. And basically what you do here is you pass in a query that looks at the old blog posts. So that's what this query is doing it here. It's looking at all the posts, but I call it older posts because I'm filtering it for any post that's dated June 25 and earlier, and then saving those old posts into a variable, and then deferring it here in line 77. So all posts that has the slug that's in this, in this list here will be deferred. So that's how simple it is to set up. Now, the other mode is server-side rendering, which is sort of the tried and true, the typical website generation technique where, you make a request through a server and then it serves the data. So in this page, this new navigation is calling a third-party API. So every time I click on it, it serves a different recipe. So that's a traditional server-side rendering. So from a code perspective, the way that will look like is like this. So this page here is that page we just looked at. Basically, you pass in server data, which comes from this function called get server data. So this function here is what is calling the third-party API, and the result of this function is this server data here. So that's pretty much what that looks like. And last but not least, before I stop, I also want to mention that the latest version, I'm actually going to stop sharing. The latest version of Gatsby, which is 4.15.1, has what we call a script component. So not only does that version actually have great performance improvements, but it also provides what we call a script component, which allows you to defer your third-party scripts using different strategies, either defer it after React hydrates or actually render it off the main thread. And I think that is very, really improves performance. I do a lot of performance auditing, and to me, like deferring or working with third-party scripts is always a challenge. So I encourage everyone here to try it out. It's just amazing in terms of performance gain. So that's it, Alan. Thanks for letting me speak.
Oh yeah, no, this is fantastic. Thank you for showing all those rendering methods, and especially for mentioning the script component. I think that
Yeah.
It's one of those things because it's like, just like images, it's like one of those things that's hard to do in a
Yeah,
good way. It's hard to do right. And I love that Gatsby kind of standardizes that. So it
yeah,
provides the right path, and it makes it harder to build a non-performant website than it is to
yeah,
build what is performant. And I love that, you have granular control like that. That's
yeah,
fantastic. Um,
yep.
so let's switch gears a little bit and chat about Gatsby Cloud. Hinarosa, can you see my slides here?
Yeah, I see your slide, but it's in speaker mode.
Oh,
And I see your Firefox screen also.
well, let me try a different window.
But that's okay. I see Gatsby Cloud.
Right.
They're not.
Is that better?
I
Okay.
see it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. There we go. Oh, technology, right?
Yes.
So let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about Gatsby Cloud. This is the best platform for building and deploying and scaling your Gatsby site. If you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for an account. You can use this URL here, but we're going to walk through this as well. In fact, let me switch windows here. I'm going to see if I can do the screen share correctly this time. All right. All right, Hinarosa, can you see my Safari window?
I see. Yeah, and you have a good Gatsby Cloud site. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
we'll go to gatsbyjs.com. If you haven't already, you can sign up for a Gatsby account using this button here on our homepage, sign up for free. And you can OAuth using a number of different providers, whether you use GitLab or GitHub or Bitbucket. I'm going to continue with Google here today. I already have an account on Gatsby Cloud, so it's just asking me to authorize into my account. Oh, and so I am going to have to enter my password. Let's see if this will work.
Mhm.
All right. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
There it
Looks
goes.
like it's
Okay.
there.
All right. So, once you've signed up for an account on Gatsby Cloud, you'll see your dashboard here, and it's super easy to add a site. If you just want to get up and running on Gatsby Cloud to see what the platform is like, to see sort of what the interface is like, you can add a site very easily. You click on the Add a Site button. And from here, you're going to have a couple of options. You can either choose an existing repository on GitHub using your personal account or an organization that you have access to, or you can use one of these Gatsby starters, and Gatsby Cloud will handle all of the setup for you. It'll get your repository going. It'll build your site even for you to start off. So let's do that because I don't have anything in my repositories here. I'll use this Gatsby starter blog starter.
Mhm.
And so I clicked on that. It's going to ask me what I want to call this repository on GitHub. It's also going to ask me where I want to store this on GitHub, where the ownership needs to be. And I'm just going to store it in my Gatsby 101 organization here. So I'll go ahead and click next. And so Gatsby Cloud is going to go in, it's going to clone that starter, and it's going to create a repository in that spot on GitHub for me. And then it's going to build that site for me automatically. So you can see Gatsby Cloud has come back and told us that the first build of our project is actually up and running on Gatsby Cloud. And they went ahead and set up a repository for me. And I can see that right now if I browse over here to GitHub. There is a repository there waiting for me.
Nice.
Gatsby Cloud has gone in and they have set this repository up. And I'll show you the configuration. Everything is automatically configured in this starter already. So you can see some plugins around image optimization, transforming Markdown files into static files. So this is all done through plugins. You don't have to do kind of low-level coding on this. There's stuff that just works out of the box.
Yeah.
I think this is a great opportunity to maybe talk about our plugin ecosystem as well. I'll go over to gatsbyjs.com and we'll talk about plugins, right? So when you're using Gatsby, you have access to this incredible ecosystem of plugins. It's over 3,000, I think, almost 3,100 different plugins. Some of these are maintained by Gatsby. Some of them are maintained by third-party providers. Some are maintained by just community members who are passionate about Gatsby. And there's a plugin for anything you can think of, whether it's sourcing data or transforming that data for your site. Take a look at our Gatsby plugin library and see what you might be able to create using some of these plugins. And what's really nice about this, I think, is that everybody's using the same or a similar solution to solve the same problem. And so we all get to take advantage of that kind of shared solution. And that to me is the beauty of like open source, I think, is we are all kind of like invested in a solution, whether we work in different areas or whatnot. So take a look at those for sure. So that is our plugin ecosystem. Let me see here. I'm going to switch back to my other window here. And we were in.
Yeah, we're talking about Gatsby Cloud. So I think, and then how is the cloud served up? I think we were talking about the CDN. I think that's.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, I can see the starter slides. Yeah, now we are. Yeah, how do we deliver?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so when you use Gatsby Cloud, your site gets deployed to a global edge network. I believe it's 33 points of presence on Fastly's network. So what that does is it creates a replica of your site files essentially all around the world in different kind of like high priority like clusters basically. So that puts your content closer to people, closer to their web browsers basically. So it gets your content to people very quickly so that they don't have to make a round trip out to a central data center in say like, Northern Virginia or something like that. So it makes your site super fast for people all around the world.
Nice.
And so I think that's it. So maybe we could talk a little bit about workflows now. What do you think?
Sure. So thank you very much for that, Alan. Very great content. What I want to do now is just go through actual like how you use Gatsby Cloud, what workflows would you expect. So right now, just very validating, you can see my screen, which shows Gatsby Contentful demo. Yep. Is that right?
That's
All
right.
right, cool. So this is your Gatsby dashboard, and I'm going to talk about two workflows. First is the developer workflow. Like, what would you expect as a developer when you use Gatsby Cloud? How do we enhance your workflow? So we don't make you do anything different. We just sort of go with your current workflow, and we just make it a part of your workflow. So I'll go through that now. The second workflow will be from a content creator's workflow. But first and foremost, when you build a site like Alan showed you, you would get a window like this. The way that Alan showed you how to build a site was using a starter. This one was using an integration with a CMS. So this particular site uses Contentful. So when you are building with a Contentful CMS, Gatsby will know that and will connect directly to your CMS and add the relevant environment variables. So you don't need to think about that. The other thing you need to know as well is that when you're setting up your CMS, you can also do previews. So we have what we call content sync is a new feature in our previews, which allows you to see your previews where you're at. So in the past, you preview a Gatsby page in Contentful, you would need to know where you actually made the change. Now with Content Sync, whatever you changed in Contentful and you hit preview will actually go to that page. So this webhook, you'll make sure you need to add into your CMS. The other thing I want to mention is Gatsby Cloud also provides notifications. I set this up with a lot of customers I work with directly because I want to know as I'm doing tests on the site, when does a build succeed or fail? So I get notified there. Last but not least, you also have built-in access control. And what this helps you do is you can password protect things in your site that maybe you don't want anyone to see, particularly in your preview and build. Because you don't want, maybe you're working on something new in your site that's not really ready for prime time yet. You can put it under password protection. So those are the key things that I just want to make sure you're aware of as a developer. So now let's actually look at the dashboard and what you would expect. So right here is your production build. You have a way to search through all your builds. You know, if you want to maybe revert to a previous build, which is a very common thing. Let's say someone made a mistake. You may want to revert to a build from the past where it was successful and maybe it was triggered manually, for example. And so you can see that if you want to revert to a build, you just click publish here, and your build will go, your production build will go to something from the past. The other thing that's pretty cool is you can preview your pull requests. So a very common workflow is, you know, you have a group of developers building a site, you're all working on the key features here. This one, for example, was a feature that someone was working on where they're fixing the about page, so you can actually preview that. So we're looking at the about page. The text here is all about cheese, which probably isn't the right one. So this person is just working on things. But what's cool is you can preview that, you know, before you actually publish. So from a developer workflow, that's something that's built into Gatsby Cloud. And if you want to merge any of your pull requests, you can do it easily in GitHub. Here's that page, we just saw it. Looks like if everyone's happy, you can just merge it and you're done. So again, this is your typical workflow, but we enhance it in Gatsby Cloud. One other thing that is very cool that I think a lot of my customers like is that Gatsby Cloud actually incorporates Lighthouse. So you can look at your Lighthouse scores. This is a mobile Lighthouse score as you're building, and you can see right away like things that need to be changed if not. So that's something that's pretty cool as part of Gatsby Cloud. So that's the typical developer workflow. Now I'm going to switch gears and go through the content creator workflow, where the content creator's main space or main tool of choice is their CMS. So the scenario here is that we have this site, but someone, we will not name names, accidentally published this content, which, as you can see, isn't ready for publishing. So you, as the content creator, probably in the past you'd like have to open a ticket, get someone to changes, but Gatsby saves the day because you can work directly in your CMS. So as the content creator, I'm going to go to Contentful. This is the page or the section that I can change. And so I am going to put the actual content here and change the image, remove this, add it. This is the actual image. Make sure there's nothing else that needs to change. Okay, looks good. So I want to be triple sure, so I can actually use the preview that's built into Contentful and Gatsby Cloud. So I want to make sure the preview is there. I'm able to view the preview. This is the right one. Phew. So I will publish it. Done. So as a content creator, I did everything in Contentful. I didn't have to open a ticket. I didn't have to bother the developer. The page is done. Let's actually check and make sure this page is built. Let's refresh it. Oh, I see the new content there. Okay, finished. Well, before our CMO saw everything. So yeah, we made sure nobody got fired. So Gatsby Cloud built that new content today. It was built in 5 seconds, again, because we're leveraging incremental builds from the framework. We're leveraging cloud builds from Gatsby Cloud. And just to make sure it's building or it's using incremental builds, we can see the Contentful just had one updated entry, which is the one we just did. And that's all that Gatsby Cloud built. So that is why things were very fast, 5 seconds and 1 second. That's the power of Gatsby Cloud, incremental builds, and that's it for now. Those are the 2 workflows. So thank you for letting me share that, Alan. I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, thanks for walking through that. Let me get my slides back up here really quick. All right, can you see my slides, Generosa?
Yep. Yep, we're back to the front list, or the front end for the headless web.
Yeah, cool. I love those workflows because I was just thinking as you were going through and editing that content, it's like I would, in other jobs, I would still be sitting there trying to figure out how to fill out the ticket for the dev team.
Yeah.
Different things. And not only the time that it takes to fill it out, but then you have to wait to get the work prioritized in a sprint. And it's like that Gatsby just streamlines that. It speeds that up so much for me anyway, coming from the content side.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So y'all, that's our webinar for today. Thank y'all so much for attending. It doesn't look like we have any open questions here in our Q&A panel. Generosa, thank you again for walking through all of these wonderful demos. This is fantastic. I think it really helps kind of show the value, being able to
thank you.
So like I said, that's our webinar for today. Be on the lookout for that recording that's going to land in your inbox in the next couple of days. And if you haven't already, definitely sign up for an account on Gatsby Cloud. Get a starter going today. Just see how it works for you. Try out the interface. Let us know what you think.
All right. Yeah.
So that is it.
All right. Thank you, Alan.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.